February 28th, 2023. This is the City of Isanti Parks Recreation and Culture Board meeting. And call to order, we'll start with pledge.
Under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, Jordan, and it looks like all members are present. We have a full roster today. Is there any agenda modifications? Okay. We'll move on to item B, the approval of minutes from January 24th, 2023, the Parks Recreation and Culture Board meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Made by Hinkia,
I second it.
made by Erkey. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion passes. On to numbers, letter C, dog waste bag stations.
Yeah, good evening. So we believe Jimmy made a request for us to look into getting some more dog waste bag stations around some of the city parks and along some of the trails. So we're just looking for maybe your guys' input on where you think might be good spots to put them. I think right now we just have that one at the dog park. I'm not aware of any other ones in town. The company that we buy the bags from and stuff, right now that's where I got pricing from. And so basically, we're just looking to see what your guys' input is on location and how many you want to add. It's pretty straightforward. All we need is a signpost, which Public Works should have a bunch on hand, so we don't really have a cost there. It's just buying the actual dispensers and then the extra bags. Right now, we order like one case of bags, and it lasts about the whole year. There are 30 rolls, and it's like 6,000 total bags. So, and the price right now is $217.99. So just trying to factor in how many we want to look at getting, and then how many extra bags we'd end up buying in a year.
This one came from you?
It did come from me, yeah. So when I was doing my meet and greet during the campaign season, I had people come to me and say that they wanted more dog waste stations, or at least more amenities to be able to pick up after their dog when they were out on a trail and that kind of thing. And they didn't want people, I heard also people, the dogs are pooping in my yard and all that kind of stuff too. So I don't know how many we need. I mean, I don't know if we could pull up a trail map or something and just kind of see.
Well, off the top of my head, as somebody who's the dog park, I definitely think a second one at the dog park could be beneficial because, and it's not really my dog, but by the time my dog goes and I get up to the front to get a bag and get back there, another dog has eaten my dogs, which I'm not trying to be funny, but it happens a lot. And if you're at one corner trying to referee your dogs to go up to that front corner, it can be a hike, and then to go pick it up and then to come and throw it away. So to have one on either corner of the dog park might be beneficial. That one closest to the railroad crossing there.
Yeah.
But then also, I guess Bluebird obviously as a destination park. I'm sure people play with their dogs there. And Legacy came to mind just because of the trails. That's.
Well, don't we have, so probably the nature ones for sure,
Yeah.
on the trailheads.
Yeah.
With Legacy and one south of town.
River Meadows.
Yeah, those would probably need it for sure. And then Bluebird, and then where else would we? Because what are we looking at as far as a budget too? Because
They're not real expensive. That's,
Yeah.
what was it, 60, 80
just
bucks?
like a pedestal?
Yeah, I don't think it's a trash can or anything like that. It's just
No,
basically a
just
dispenser you're
just
looking
a
at, right?
dispenser where it holds the bags. I think it holds like 3 rolls at a time. You just bolt it onto a
It just
signpost.
goes onto a pole?
You just bolt it onto a signpost and it's good to go.
I think, isn't the one at the dog park mounted to the fence, I think, itself?
Probably.
Yeah, they look pretty straightforward to put on.
So do they
So-
have their own trash onto it, or do we just have a trash bin right next to it?
I think the one at the dog park has a small trash receptacle, but the RFP for the trash service is coming due, and we're looking at adding a regular sized trash can at the dog park and the archery range, just because there seems to be a lot of traffic over there. So Public Works guys had requested to try to get a couple extra cans. I guess the other spot I thought of was, there's that, trail, I can't remember the road, on the east side of town. There's, you know, it's, I can't remember the road.
Well, that's my trail. Yeah, there's a lot of people that walk dogs, and there's a lot of just dog crap all over the place over there.
Yeah.
What park is that?
No, there's no park.
It's not a park, it's just a city trail?
Just a trail.
Yeah,
Oh,
because they're supposed to eventually be in the development going, the north, that North Legacy
yeah,
development.
yeah.
There's supposed to be a small park that goes in, I think, the phase 3 into that, so, but no, people will drive and park their cars and just walk that, because it's a big tarred path.
You're just saying that one that runs along 8th Avenue and
Yep.
stuff, north and south there?
No,
Makes sense if people use it.
Yeah. Yeah, probably one over there, huh?
I mean, I would probably put it, probably the
There's-
most traffic, I would probably put it where the trail starts with the apartments and the residential, where that stop sign is at, if we're looking to put one someplace.
They probably have dispensers at the apartment buildings, I think,
Sure.
don't they?
Yeah.
Pretty sure.
I work for a company that owns a lot of them. We have them in
Almost
all of
always
our-
have them, right?
Yep.
Yeah. But that's probably a good idea, though, yeah, that would be the,
Would Public Works have a recommendation where, because they obviously mow that trail,
right?
Yeah.
they might need to put one or two along that bike trail that connects up into Cambridge. There's a lot of dogs.
Well, I didn't even think about
Yeah.
that, over north of the soccer fields.
That's what I was gonna say at the soccer field. I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, you just need one, but
I'm not trying to sound excessive, but people they might use them at every park. And it's not like we have 40 parks. What does it look like to find a location, unless we can eliminate some? Obviously, I think, what is it, Whispering Ridge with I wouldn't think that would be, but Isanti Hills, I'm sure somebody's through there with their dogs. What does it look like just we have signage, we have trash cans, we have, porta potty. It's just one of the amenities at all the parks.
They seem to use them when they're available.
Yeah.
When they're not available is when they just walk over it.
You think people actually do use them, though?
Yeah,
I don't even have a dog, so I don't know.
You work for kids too, yeah, you can clean up there.
I know for the city of Cambridge, we go through quite a bit of them, so we have those.
I mean, it all kind of depends on what would be, I mean, it would probably be a good recommendation to start, to try and have everything at every park and on a trailhead, but, and see what you guys, as far as the council wants to do as far as budget.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think one of the spots I was looking at for where the funding would come from was it's around 6,000 a year we have for just park replacements on different stuff. So like when stuff on the playground breaks or whatever, just kind of upkeep on that kind of stuff is where I kind of identified. So that was the handicap swing that we ordered, came out of that. So that was kind of the one spot. So, maybe getting some this year and then planning to try to throw it in the budget for next year to get a couple more. But yeah, I mean, the price obviously gets better with the more you order at a time, so.
So do we want to make a formal recommendation to the council just to have them at every park, 2 at an additional 1 at the dog park, and then essentially every trailhead? Because that would be 3 trailheads for sure, right? With Legacy, the River Meadows, and then the in-between Cambridge Park, right?
And the one on 8th Avenue,
Yeah, and then the one on 8th Avenue.
so 4.
What would that get us to then for?
We have 5, that'd be 6 of them then?
If you put them at every park though.
Yeah, if you put them at every park, I think there's 11 parks,
Put you about 15?
I'd say, which gets us into that.
$50 a piece.
And once you get up there, there's a pretty substantial break on price. I mean, $15
Yeah,
each.
right. Yeah, I mean, you're only looking at,
So,
it's not a huge investment.
no.
Exactly.
Well, I have the price breakdown on the sheet. So if you buy 1 to 2, it's $87.98 a piece, 3 to 7, $77, 8 to 14, $67, 15 to 24, $52 a piece, so.
Yeah, you get up to that 15, I mean, they're almost half the cost anyways.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you're only looking at $800, I mean, maybe a little more, I suppose, by the time you get shipping on there and that kind of thing, but.
Yeah, and then the extra bags.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they all really should have it anyway.
Yeah, I
if you
mean,
think
really.
about it. I mean, why wouldn't you? Yeah.
Kind of feels like protecting our assets a little bit, really, you know? And I don't think, I mean, I think we're obviously gonna go through more bags, that's logical, but, you know, the dog park is probably the heaviest, right? So, I don't think, who knows, maybe it's not that substantial, you know? The rest of the parks may use less than the dog park combined.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, as far as, do I have a motion to bring it to the board as far as our recommendation of, 15 essentially every trailheads, every park, and two in the dog park and every park?
I make a motion that we send it to council to look at adding 15, ish, right? About 15, dog waste stations to the city parks and trailheads.
I'd second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign? All right, motion carries. Good luck, Jordan. All right, on to item D, request from the Rum River BMX Park.
Yeah, so got a phone call, request from Rum River BMX. They want to put in a sidewalk at their expense, connecting the skate park parking lot in the northeast corner of Bluebird Park to the northwest corner of the BMX in Isanti Indoor Arena parking lot, where they've got like a little pad designated for motorcycle parking. They said they would pull any necessary permits and provide labor and materials for the project. They have members in their group that do excavating work and concrete work that they feel like they'd be able to do the projects themselves. Yeah, they often use that parking lot for events and stuff, so I think they're just looking to have a clear path through the grass, and there's not a sidewalk on Isanti Parkway either, so there's not really a great way to get over to the indoor arena. And so pass it along to other city staff and get some comments, and so the recommendation from the staff was to be more of a bike path to fit in with all the other trails through the park. Also, it's easier to maintain if it's a wider path with the guys that come through with the truck or plowing or whatever it might be. And just for reference, like a normal sidewalk is 5 feet wide. They would want a minimum of 8 foot for a bike path, but 10 foot is preferred. Consider was the path would have to be constructed to meet code and all city standards, and then just trying to identify who's responsible for plowing and maintenance and upkeep. So just looking at maybe amending the agreement between the city and Rum River BMX if necessary. So just wanted to kind of get your guys' take on it, see if you had any input. That was the recommendation from Josie, was to throw it by you guys and see what you think. So. It's on, there's a small map attached, and I didn't print it off in color, but, I don't know, we didn't really discuss exactly where the trail would be going, but, just kind of gives a, reference point to where we're talking to connect.
Where's Josie's son's GaGa Ball court going? Is that in that area?
No, not in that spot.
Oh, it's across the street in Bluebird? I thought it was over by the skate park.
We had a bunch of different spots picked out, but it's not a great spot close to the road over there, and those pine trees drop a lot of needles.
Okay, I was just curious. I personally, I think, if they're gonna cover it, it's not gonna be at any cost to the city. I think that's a pretty easy decision. I think that there's that path that goes along the sidewalk there that's part of the park already, correct? Or is there not a path along the park between this two spaces? Does the path go up that way?
I don't believe there's anything.
Oh, it's south of there. Oh, I see, and then it curves down and goes along the trees, I see. I thought it went up for some reason. Yeah. Right.
I guess my question was, because they were talking about doing concrete work on it, but most of those trails are asphalt.
Yeah, that was, Matt had brought that up too, but yeah, I didn't know, we didn't really discuss, but.
Okay.
So Josie had me ask Jason, the city engineer, if we had any plans for sidewalks going in anytime in the near future on Isanti Parkway that it would tie into, and he said there's nothing in the works in the near future where we'd have to consider, routing it a certain way or whatever to try to tie into anything there, so.
Well, and that means if it does come up, this trail may have already served its useful purpose in that time, so we can reevaluate if that ever comes up, so.
Yeah, cause I remember that's what we were talking about last year, is that street needs a sidewalk, but there was nothing in the works to do that. I don't have a whole, I don't personally have a whole problem with it if they're gonna put it in, and as long as they meet the needs of, I mean, wider is probably, cost is probably different, but wider is probably better for, I mean, as far as foot traffic back and forth and running bikes across that piece of it too.
Yeah, knowing it has a safety element just makes me want to support it more, honestly. You know? Who, right now, that path that goes behind the arena and then curves down, do we do snow removal on that path? So the city does that now? And the city does the parking lot, so for that small of a path, I think it would be a no-brainer just to have the city clear that as well. I mean, it's.
I just wanted to have it identified in the contract.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think unless somebody else thinks elsewise, but I mean, I don't foresee there being a lot of maintenance and repair, but because the city's not building it, and I don't know how much oversight is gonna be into the design and the construction of it, I would probably recommend maintenance and repairs be the responsibility of BMX. You know, I don't think there's going to be a lot of them, but.
Posed it to you guys because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, no, I'm telling you what I think, so.
Yeah, I think that all sounds good to me.
That makes sense.
All right, Dan, you laid out a pretty decent plan there. Do you wanna make a motion on your plan?
And you
I'm
guys
not
don't
building
you don't have a problem making it a little wider than? No. No, that's, okay.
Right.
Sure.
Well, I think contingent upon the working out the contract officially, you know, with them handling the maintenance and, you know, the city handling the plowing, I think I make a motion that the Parks Board recommend this for approval in front of the council.
I second it.
Second by Archery. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. All right. Good luck, you guys are growing like crazy.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
When you building another building? I said, when are you gonna throw up another building?
All right, on to item number E, department updates.
All right, so, been doing a lot of work and research on the splash pad project. Had a few different opportunities to present stuff to council. And so I included in the packet, some of the presentation that we shared. We got the go-ahead to proceed on pursuing option 3 in that document. We're just trying to gather information now on the restroom building portion of it. So Steve Lundeen, the company he works for, is interested in donating the labor and materials for the plumbing fixtures in the bathroom building. So we had kind of originally picked out a prefab kit that comes, it's precast concrete. They just bring it in on a crane and set it right in, and it's got everything in there, and we just have the site ready, make all the connections, and it's good to go. And so Steve wanted to try to pursue a different option where we maybe build that, have somebody, a construction company, build us something on site where we would have more control over pieces of the project, where we could try to have some cost savings. And so kind of got word back today from the prefab unit. company that they said they don't really like to do that because it's warranty and code stuff if it's not what they had kind of spec'd out in their plans and stuff, so he wasn't real keen on that. He suggested if we went the route with a prefab building, that if Steve would be interested in doing some of the site prep work and bringing the infrastructure into that area, the plumbing, the piping and all that stuff into that spot, if that was an option. We also have been talking to Bolton and Mink, working with Jason, and they didn't really have any projects in their portfolio that they've done recently that kind of match what we're looking for, so they didn't really have any good prices to kind of give us a ballpark, because that's what we're kind of looking to get right now, is just figure out what it might cost if we were to build it compared to getting the prefab kit. So then we talked to Widseth about getting something designed and put in the park, like a block building, kind of similar to what we had picked out, but just where we would build it on site and have more control over some of those pieces. And that was going to be more expensive to have it professionally designed than the prefab kit. So we were also discussing in-house if we're able to have city staff design it and have the building inspector kind of review the plans and stuff. So we're still trying to gather more information on where we're going on that before we bring it back to council, but just want to give you a kind of update where we're at there.
Can I ask one question on that?
Yep.
So the prefab is not insulated though?
Correct.
And that's the whole, is to try and figure out a way if we can do that insulated.
That's something that I think could be, if we did build it ourselves, we might have more control over that, and then we potentially could use it for during the winter months, during illuminated Isanti or whatever. It could be beneficial. I don't know what the cost difference would be to have it insulated versus non with a block building and heating and all that kind of stuff. So, that was something we thought, if we went that route, that might be a possibility of getting it added in there. But so with the grant that we got, just to kind of get you up to speed, so it's the city's contribution is $436,000, and the state is contributing $300,000. So the city's portion does not have to be all cash on hand from the city. It can be, so like with Steve's company, just throwing a number out there, $50,000 worth of labor and materials, that would come out of the city's portion of the grant responsibility. So, we're just trying to be conscious of spending the tax money right now, where the city's portion is planning to come out of the park dedication fund. And so I think we're just trying to limit how much we tap into that, because we'll put it under for a little bit until we have more development coming in. We have stuff that's kind of in the works, not finalized, but we pretty strong feelings that we're going to have more stuff coming in to build that fund back up. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at there. So we also wanted to share that Federated Co-ops has donated $5,000 to the Splash Pad project. And now, since we've kind of got the go-ahead from council to go with option 3, we've been talking to different vendors about what might the splash pad look like with the different features within our budget. And then so we feel like we have an opportunity to reach out to other businesses to get more donated if they want to see all right, here's what the city contribution is going to get if we want to maybe get something, a really cool feature, if they want to kick in more or whatever, we might be able to offset some costs. So I think it's nice that we got the donation already, and I think others might be interested in joining in on that. So
Jordan's done a lot of work on this to get it, because the park dedication funds is at like $355,000, and the original plan was to use $218 from park dedication money and $218 from, I think it was $920 for capital improvement stuff, which is tax dollars. Well, I didn't want to use tax dollars on it. I was totally against that. Well, park dedication money, it comes from the developers, and it has to be used for new park amenities. You can't use it for maintenance or anything like that. So that makes sense to me, but he's done a lot of work to keep that grant coming forward and to be able to get within the budget to where we're getting close to being able to get it done with the money that we actually have, so. So I want to thank you again for all the hard work you put in on this, and you've done a great job on it, so,
Yeah, Jordan, you didn't come in at a boring time. Between
No, a lot of-
illuminating the
a lot of
splash
stuff.
pad, you had plenty going on, didn't you?
A lot of stuff going on. It's good, though.
No, and I will say, there's a lot of people that are extremely excited about that thing coming, so.
I mean, one of the things that we did change about it too was there was, I think originally the plan was for this non-slip coating. Well, like Jordan said at our meeting last time, is he's never seen one with the non-slip coating, and the cost to replace that every 10 years is like 60 grand. So it's like, well, we don't want to have this huge bill that, I mean, we want to be careful about things, obviously. I mean, we don't want anybody getting hurt, which, I'm sure we'll be okay with that too, but to keep it in line to where it's not gonna be this huge obligation going down the road for future maintenance and all that kind of stuff too is good, so.
So is it just gonna be like, so give me context.
So
Is
it'll-
it, as far as like a splash pad that, cause so like, I know Princeton's, like the zoo and stuff like that, so is this just gonna be concrete or what is?
concrete, and then we can, Jason, the engineer, said there's tons of different call-outs you can have for the spec on the finish. It can be broomed. They have a bunch of different specs you can do, but pretty much just broomed concrete, which is pretty standard for a lot of these. So the first company I was talking to a lot, he's been building splash pads since 2007, and he said this summer will be the first one he's putting in with the rubberized coating. So it's a fairly new thing. Not a lot of people have done it before, I guess, in the area, so more of a upgraded safety thing, new thing that they're doing, so. But yeah, so that was an area we were, trying to look at, is there anywhere we can cut a little fluff out? So that was one spot we identified, because the grant we applied for, you have to kind of do what you said in your plan, otherwise you have to get written permission from the state and also the federal government, because there's federal money tied into the grant too. So it's not a guarantee that they would allow a change in the plan, so we kind of, what's in the plan? What do we need to make sure we have? Anything extra, do we need it or not? So that's kind of where we're at there, so.
And that's where a lot of the work comes in too, is it's not like we can just say, okay, let's just change this and then forget about the rest. He's gotta change it and then get approval and then come back to us, and so that's, I appreciate your effort on that.
Yeah. And we did look into, I don't know if we provided an update on that, but we did ask the league about insurance implications on the non-slip compared to a regular surface, and they said there's no additional liability on the city for either, it doesn't reduce your liability or increase your liability either way, so it was kind of, didn't really matter, it didn't affect anything on our end. So, that was that. Another thing that we've been kind of continually working on is with the archery range being new, and just trying to figure out how the public wants to use it and everything. So we've been working on redoing some ordinances a while back this late fall. Jimmy had brought forward to keep it open year-round and allow the use of broadheads. We talked about allowing crossbows at that time and kind of got tabled, and then the last meeting when I had proposed the new ordinance, just allowing the broadheads and being open year-round, council decided to also include the use of crossbows as well. So working on updating that ordinance again. We'll post that and bring it back to council after it's done. And then another part of that was Jimmy had also asked about like some safety netting or something on between the dog park and the archery range on that north boundary there. So I had brought, at the last meeting, I brought some prices at the last council meeting of what that would look like for netting. And it was gonna be about $10,000 to put in safety netting. So got the direction to look at what it would cost for a tall wooden fence. So the issue with the netting is it's not really rated for compound bows or high-powered stuff. So a lot of it's like just your regular recurve bow that the kids would use in school. It's not really high poundage and stuff. So the netting companies recommend doubling or tripling up the netting, and then you also have to keep it loose and not strung tight. Otherwise, the arrows will just go right through. So yeah, just to compare, I'll be working on getting prices on what it would cost to put a taller fence, wooden fence, so that would kind of take care of the arrows.
Have we lost any arrows to the left?
No, we've had a few go through the tin shed, but,
Yeah, where the public works shed is, so
Yeah.
they've had a few go through there. so,
Really?
Yeah, which is more, to the left of the, yeah, yeah.
Oh, the shed to the left of the range? is
Not the
gonna
red
come-
one,
Or
the-
the one straight ahead behind the berm?
One straight ahead. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
They shot it over the berm.
Over the berm, yeah.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, that'd feel a little intentional
Kinda, yeah, yeah.
to go that way.
So, yeah, so just looking into that, but, yeah, moving forward, I'll be redrafting that ordinance and bringing it back to council. Next item, the East Central Regional Arts and, Arts Council, there was a grant that I applied for $15,000 that we're gonna try to use for Illuminate Isanti. That included a band. Originally was gonna do Santa, but I reached out to them ahead of time and they didn't feel like that was gonna qualify for artistic merit from their board, so they recommended to try to do something different, and we had kind of talked about a band, so I went that route, as well as sound system and the fence, because those would be yearly rental costs that if we just bought outright, and had, that the cost savings would be beneficial if we're trying to recoup our money that we put in, so, like the fence was, like $6,000 or $5,600, I think, to rent this year. And to just buy outright, it was $14,566 or something, so within 3 years, we'd get our money back, and if we thought if we could get a big chunk of that from the grant, then, you know, we really limit how much the city's spending on it, and we'd be able to use it for a long time, since it would only be used for the one event, really, so, but I found out, this morning that we did not get it, but they gave me suggestions, and there's another round, due for April 1st. So the kind of nice thing about this grant is they, like, you're present for the review from the board, so you get all the feedback as they're discussing, so you kind of know what they're looking for, and they give feedback, and then we're able to kind of retool our application and have a better shot going forward. So there's just some minor tweaks, and they didn't understand fully the need for the fence as it related to, you know, the band and also the displays. So it's kind of weird because it's, wrote the grant for the band mostly, for the sound and the fence, to try to separate that from the overall 10-day event, and the band would only be a one-day thing, so I was trying to figure out how to navigate explaining that. But so the other thing I was trying to find contact information for was people that do snow sculptures, since they're really art focused, is try to have you know, local artists come in. If we can get a local concrete company to bring big forms in, and we can make a big block of snow, and they can come carve something cool out of it. So that was one piece I had mentioned in there, but we didn't have any contact information for any local artists yet, so that was one thing I think they would really like to see if we had somebody nailed down for that piece. So that'll be something I'll be working on in the next month to get that kind of finalized, and it sounded like they would. It was kind of like a split vote, so we were right on the edge of getting it or not. So I think if we kind of take their input and retweak it, we'll get it the next time, so. So I've tentatively have the street dance and Amp It Up bands booked for the summer. I've kind of got the verbal stuff in, we're just waiting on the contracts to be signed. Before I do any promotional or advertising, just want to make sure we're good there. Fireworks are booked. Some of the other summer stuff, still working on right now. Kind of figuring out the final plan for the summer events. Another thing, big thing that I've been working on, and it should be ready at the end of March here, is the 5-year plan for Illuminate Isanti. Just really breaking down all of our costs that we think we're going to have over the next 5 years, and trying to project what our revenues would be, our sponsorships, and all that kind of stuff, just to lay out, you know, our best guess at where we're going to try to be in 5 years to bring back the fund to zero. So just been a lot of kind of going through what we spent this year, figuring out what was a one-time expense, or maybe a once every 5 years, once every 10 years, trying to nail down where some of that stuff is, and then also taking into consideration what we need to, as we try to grow it and bring more people in to help offset the costs, where I feel like we can't just have the same display every year without any changes or some new pieces. So just trying to research what our best option is for getting our most bang for our buck on ordering maybe some new light displays. So kind of our thought process was, we found out this year when we were doing some of the ordering from stuff overseas, if we do freight shipping, and we can work with the companies and just get one shipping container instead of having multiple shipments coming. If we can just fill up one container and the cost is fixed on that, make the investment right away and then kind of hang on to some of that stuff at the PD building and kind of intersperse it out over the next couple of years and add those pieces in, just so we don't have to pay the freight every year on if we're gonna, or get 1 or 2 new pieces a year, whatever it might be, so.
Is there any opportunity to, this might be crazy, and maybe you've looked into it, or maybe it's just absolute nonsense, but is there any opportunity to look at like Bentleyville and say, hey, would you swap us a piece every year?
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I can reach out to those.
Because, I mean, he's gotta have 40 displays, right? And he's, obviously, he adds things, but if there's one thing he's not using and we can use it and send him something, or even if we rent something from him every year to keep it fresh,
Yeah, that's a good idea.
you know?
I feel like Jeff used to have a contact there at some point. I don't know if anybody else ever had talked to that guy or not, but I remember him talking about that before, like he, way back in the day before he was mayor.
He can kind of be a dork, that guy up at Bentleyville, but I might be able to
Yeah.
chat with somebody that knows him, that's on the board there, so. I'll see if they're still involved, I'll let you know.
Okay.
But yeah, just, we're in the Christmas display business, let's be friends.
But I also am part of the Minnesota Park and Rec Association, so there are other cities that do
Oh, yeah.
displays, so I can reach out to them. I'm a part of a group that meets kind of the northern towns. They kind of meet once a month, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person, but, so I can ask. I know Bemidji does one, and they're in part of that group and stuff, so I can reach out to other.
Just the idea of, if there's
Swap and
one
stuff.
that everybody kind of wants, right? Oh, okay, Isanti will buy this one, and then we'll rotate it through, and then Bemidji can, you know what I mean? I don't know if there's any opportunity there, but somewhere, somebody's not putting up all their displays, and why is somebody buying one if it's sitting in a truck or at their PD building somewhere,
Right. So another piece with the, trying to fill up a shipping container was, hey, because we had a lot of people at Fairmount that bought some of the displays, the smaller displays, if we can, part of our, sponsorship package and stuff, if we can say, hey, we're gonna try to fill this up if you wanna, these are some of the items we have kind of picked out. Would your business be willing to buy it or whatever? So not necessarily, wouldn't be, hopefully not 100% the city's cost to buy everything, but, hey, here's our kind of goal for the next 5 years. You want to help out to be a part of it, so kind of what we're thinking there.
Absolutely.
So
Cool.
So we've got the contracts have been signed with the Prairie Fire Children's Theater for the summer camps we're going to be holding at Bluebird Park. So this was part of the first ECRAC grant that we got last year in the fall of 2022. So they're week-long camps where the theater company, they send 2 people in. The kids sign up and all week they practice doing the thing, and then I think they do 2 shows at the end of the week for the public. So we'll be doing that in the amphitheater. And the other part of that grant was getting a stage for the amphitheater, so I'll be working on getting that ordered as well. Now that we're within the timeframes of the grant the funds being able to be accessed. So we make sure we have that in time for the plays, and also we'll use it for the bands at the park, so.
Because they really wanted that.
That's right.
So, yeah. The other thing, we wrapped up, kind of a lot of stuff was going on at the same time. So we had Explore Minnesota, we had a marketing grant that we worked with North 65 Chamber on. And so that helped pay for a lot of the marketing for the street dances and summer family event series and Illuminate Isanti last year. So we worked with them just on the reporting, pulling all the invoices and getting all that stuff sent back to the state. So everything was good there. And then I'm working on the spring edition of the Isantian right now. The other fun update we talked about last time, doing the slip and slide, I'd reached out to DW about seeing if they would donate any of the materials to do a slip and slide, like the big tarp and the biologs for bumpers, and they were all on board for that. So I think we're kind of a go for adding that in. We just got to figure out who's going to be spraying the water and stuff on the actual slip and slide during the event. So I thought that was a fun update to share. So
Those kids are gonna go crazy.
and then I also just I threw in the splash pad info for you guys to look at. So if you got any questions, let me know. But
And And I watched the meeting, but are we doing option one or more of an option two and three?
2 and 3, so the 3,500 square foot. So a lot of the back and forth was, you know, before we really knew what our requirements were with the state and the grant, if we had to stick to what we had picked out, you know, it was just talk about, you know, what are our options or whatever. So I had that on there, and then at one point it was, well, do we even take the grant, and do we still want to do something on our own? So it was just, got the information together, what it would still cost the city if they wanted to do a splash pad, a smaller scale, something, and not take the grant, and maybe look at not flush toilets, but vault toilets or something different like that. So that was just something I kept in there just for comparison's sake.
So with this, have you guys put it on a map yet to figure out kind of where it's
Exactly
gonna
where in the
sit?
park?
Yeah, so we have, north of the playground, so like the path that comes in where we walked in for Lumina Isanti, so kind of right there between the playground and that stretch going from that, where it kind of tees, when you come in heading west and it curves to the south, so it'll be like half, kind of splitting that, where that trail would come to a T where you walked into Lumina Isanti.
Okay. And then that bathroom,
The bathroom was supposed to be kind of in the V of the trail, where you'd go either to the amphitheater or to the parking lot, or the trail that, you know, zigzags through.
do you have a map of it, or can you show it to us next?
Yeah, I could add it in the next month, yeah. So and there's also some other components to the grant as well, where we had, the pollinator gardens, some fitness equipment, and some ADA trail connections. So the map has got kind of where all that stuff's going on it too, so,
That'd be good to see.
yeah.
Yeah. So it is gonna affect where the entrance to Illuminate Isanti is?
Yeah, well, we talked about shifting the boundaries with the sledding hill and stuff, so we've kind of,
Okay.
you know, working that,
Yeah.
how that's gonna look. Yeah, so some other stuff that was in there too, that with the splash pad, thought we could get more bang for our buck with, having some of the electrical upgrades, for like the light pole that we talked about by the playground there. It's just gonna make sense to do it when that's going in. Myron's already gonna be there pulling electric there for that stuff, so, and that was part of, lighting, I think, was part of the grant too, so just, you know, figured it was a good spot to do that, yeah.
I don't know, is this gonna be on-demand water, where you hit a button?
Yep, so there'll be like a pedestal or something with a push-button activation, so it'll, I can't remember what the cycle is. We haven't bid it out, so we don't know what company's gonna do it, so there's different systems, like the Bolton and Mank and, what's the other company? They use the Vortex systems, there's another company that uses Water Odyssey, so there's different systems, but they're all pretty similar, it's just, I don't know if we have any control over when they hit the button, if it's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I don't know that piece, but, yeah, it'll just be yeah. It's like the Ninja Warrior course, and you get to the end and smack it, so.
I know one thing that had been mentioned to me from another council member anyway was, you know, is this something that we should charge for, you know, versus not
I'm
charge
on the
for? I
fence
mean,
on that.
And his thought was, well, let's not charge any residents for sure, I mean, but
Agreed.
outside of the city, I mean, should we charge? So that's something that I know probably will be coming up in the future for.
So, yeah, Josie had brought that up to me, and I did look at the grant, and it was put in there that, it would be a free use park,
Okay.
so that option, it would have to be, or, you know, a request to the state and the federal government to see if we would be able to change that piece, but it was in there for the bathrooms and the splash pad, that it would be free use.
Okay.
Let's wait to build it and then we'll decide to charge. What are they gonna do, take it back?
Well, yeah, well, then that suggestion that he made probably wouldn't work, and I don't know that it's enough.
So-
I mean, I know they
But you
charge in
hate giving it
Princeton.
away though, too, in a way, like, it's a lot of money just, I mean, the residents, fine, if we can do it to residents, but it's like, all those jerks from Cambridge are gonna come down here and make a lot.
I don't think you're gonna recoup the cost that it would
Gotta pay
take
somebody to be
staff
there.
it.
The-
You have to
Yeah.
have somebody to staff it when it's open.
Yeah, my previous experience with, in Fargo and Moorhead, when I was in charge of staffing, there was 17 warming houses I staffed in Fargo and 6 wading pools in Moorhead. And it's, you know, 14-year-old, 15-year-old kids. And if they don't show up for work, then guess who's sitting there at the park all day?
Well, what's the quality of work when they do show up, right?
Yeah.
You know,
So it's, yeah, the dependability and stuff, can be a hassle, and people expect it to be open, and they get there and they can't, you know, if they plan a birthday party at the park and they show up and gates are closed for the day, it's just more of a headache than
right.
anything, so.
And when will it open?
So it'll depend, you know, we're trying to figure out the bathroom piece before we put out to bid, so just depending on when we can get all that, if we can get it out soon, it would be good, otherwise I think we might miss our window to get good bids this year for the construction season, just with previous experience from Jason's recommendation and, you know, if we put it out too late, everybody's already got stuff booked, so they're not really.
Jobs all booked up, yeah.
Yeah, so kind of try to nail down what the bathroom situation is and then see if we can get it out in time. We think we might get favorable bids. We have until the end of 2024 to get the project done, so.
Cool. I'm assuming your group would probably come over there and use it quite a bit.
Splash pad, splash.
As long as there's no bikes in there.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, those are gonna be the cleanest bikes in the race.
No bikes.
Are there plans for seating areas around the splash
Yes,
pad?
so,
Okay, it's
I
included.
believe the grant called out for at least three picnic tables and 3 like shade structures to go over those picnic tables, I believe. Don't quote me on that, but that is in there as part of the requirement that we have seating and shade around the outside. So there's like a 5 or 7 foot buffer around the entire concrete area that is supposed to be the dry zone. So then like the amenities for the picnic tables and stuff would be kind of on the other side of that buffer, so.
I literally just thought about this, but with the splash pad there and Bluebird as a whole, has there been any discussion of vending machines? As far as they're unmanned, but they can still be revenue streams. I don't know if they're worth it, but even just to have I mean, cause now you're in the splash pad now, is that goggles, is that, towels, right, you know what I mean? And then also obviously snacks and drinks. It's not manned and it might be revenue, even if that revenue is just dedicated to expanding the park. Something
Yeah,
coming in.
so my previous experience in Moorhead, the baseball complex that I was in charge of, where I ran all my flag football and youth baseball at, there was kind of a roll-up metal door that was locked, and it was, you know, just deep enough for the vending machines.
Yeah,
And so, I mean, that could be potential for the bathroom building. It would have to be at the bathroom building, but, I mean, we didn't see a huge use of it. I mean, kind of different. People would come for an hour practice or whatever, an hour game.
right.
We used to try to get people to come do concessions. It just really wasn't ever worth it for anybody, so we already had contracts with Pepsi on vending and other city stuff in Moorhead, so we just added
Sure.
a couple locations just to offer it, but yeah, we didn't get a ton of use, and it did get broken a couple times where the kids would probably open the overhead door and throw a rock through the glass, and
Oh, I definitely know it comes with its issues too, but it just, you know,
yeah.
I don't know if it's being explored. And also, while we're doing all this work, is there an option to, you know, we have a great relationship with a lot of food vendors because of our street dances and Illuminate. Is there an option to put in a food vendor spot somewhere in the park and have a featured food vendor that pays the city $250 or $300, you know, a
Yeah.
weekend?
So part of the electrical stuff was trying to, you know, put in that we have the upgrade capability for vendors for events in the park.
Yeah.
So like at Illuminate, there was the one guy that has a generator, was super loud, and we just like to have spots where we can charge. All right, a normal spot's $50 for a out of town person, $25 for a resident. And if you want electric hookup, or we might say we're requiring you to plug in electric if we don't want the generators going, you know, we could charge an extra fee for that use. We technically can't charge for the usage, like the electric, how much they use. That's against the law, but we can charge them for a spot with an electric hookup. So, but yeah, we were looking at different options, because we have, you know, there are a couple RV pedestals in the park where they could hook up to now, and there's one fairly close. There's the 3 kind of maple trees on the east side, kind of pretty close to where that would be. There's already a RV pedestal there where they'd be able to plug into.
Yeah, it could be relatively hands-off and just add another feature to the park, knowing that there's a food truck or a food trailer up there for the weekend, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hey, Jordan, has there been any more talk on volleyball court, sand volleyball court over there? I know we talked about it in the past.
Yeah,
Have you
it's,
heard of anything?
I haven't, no.
We talked about it at one of the other meetings about the, putting one at Blueberg, kind of over by the basketball court.
Okay.
Relatively low, no maintenance, I would imagine, as long as
Yeah.
no cats get in it.
Oh, I don't,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's been on the list, it's just trying to identify
trying to get through it all.
the funding. I mean, kind of a likely thing might be the park dedication funds after we rebuild that account.
I know we're trying to make Blueberg as one of the
Yeah,
premier parks in Isanti. Kind of nice to have,
Yeah.
and have a park to have just about everything.
Wasn't the sand an issue?
the sand, the city has some sand that
It wasn't
it's,
good.
it's, I don't know what it was for or whatever, but it's like so fine and stuff, it just,
Oh, it
it was,
came out of the sewer pumps or out of the
Something with
well
the
or-
way, yeah, with the
Yeah.
leaching field or
Yeah,
something.
something
Yeah.
like that, yeah.
I don't remember the specifics, but I know the city does have some sand that they would want to use, but
bad
it's
sand,
it's
it's
just
not
not,
good sand.
not conducive for a volleyball court, but.
And maybe that's the thing, Jordan, if maybe you can put up, you know, show us the actual map of where you're at as far as the splash pad, the bathrooms, where these new hookups are gonna be.
GaGa Ball.
And then, yeah, and the GaGa Ball, where that's gonna go, so then we can actually look to see where, you know, if we would wanna then recommend this beach volleyball court to go into that area, kinda where we would go from, and then we can kinda, and I'm more of a visual person anyway, to try and map that through.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot going on over there.
Yeah,
Well, plus make sure we have enough room for everything. You know, I don't want a Gaga pit right next to the basketball court and then 1 foot in the splash pad.
and so with Illuminate, we're thinking of, you know, coming more to the south along the baseball fence, so you know, that's kind of getting closer to the basketball court, so just making sure we're.
Well, that would make, that southeast corner was, by the pavilion there, was sort of,
Yeah,
it didn't make a lot of sense for a first-year event, I get it, but.
Yeah.
So there's probably rooms to thin it out.
so, yeah, the thought was to push up and use the Redbird, the backside of the Redbird
Yeah,
fence as kind of the boundary, and then have the fence, so we have enough room for the sledding hill and just make it kind of curl around the other way,
great.
so.
Maybe that would be the request, is show us like the summertime splash pad view, and then show us a view with Illuminate Isanti using that Redbird fence, just so we can kind of see with everything
A visual
incorporated in it.
representation.
I know that's probably a lot more work for you, but, you know, that'll at least show us kind of what would all be packed in there at once and can be used then at that point.
Right.
One, and it sounds like obviously I have plenty to do, and I don't even know if this board can give you things to work on, but I'd like to see, it's been brought up more than once, I know more than just by Vaughn, but what is the cost of adding a sand volleyball court? I mean, I can't imagine it's high, if you have a second, or, you know.
Yeah, no, I've looked at like the standards and stuff, it's more or less the excavating, and I think it recommends certain, you know, the gravel
Sure.
underneath and drainage and stuff, so I think that's probably be the more expensive part of
That's
the
fair,
project.
too, yeah, the part you don't see is usually the most expensive part.
So, yeah, just making sure it's able to drain and doesn't just turn into a big mud hole, but.
Vaughn brought us into it. Anybody have anything else for open discussion?
Yeah, I do. So driving here, I noticed one of the ash trees in one of the parks is looking like it may be stressed out.
Okay.
EAB was cited in Isanti County last year for the first time. So we may want to be forward thinking on getting an inventory of all the ash trees we have on our city parks lands, because they become a really big safety hazard once they die. Become super brittle and they'll just snap right off. And obviously we want to mitigate safety hazards in all of our public areas. So getting an inventory of the ash trees and then potentially creating a plan to apply for grant funding to remove and replace those trees in next year, I think would be a good thing to start thinking about now. It's usually the DNR grant funding's open in October, November timeframe for the next year.
Do you remember what park that was by chance?
The one right on Main, or
Is it
on
Matson here?
Main, yeah, Matson. So usually when they start to have really heavy seeding, like they're still holding on to all their seeds, you can tell there's something going on with the tree. And we've had a 2-year drought, so it might just be a drought response, but something to notice. And then another really telltale sign is what we call blonding, where the bark starts to slough off and you see like really light colored patches on the trunks of the trees, as well as the dieback in the crown. So things to be watching out for, in addition to little beetle holes.
I'm gonna defer to you on this.
Absolutely.
Your expertise on this one.
Yeah, I've worked with a lot of cities across the metro that have gotten the grant funding and they've replaced, treated, and replanted trees, all depending on the city. And the metro's really getting hit hard right now, and it's coming up 35 and 65 corridors, so something we want to be thinking of for sure.
I make a motion, we listen to her.
As far as our tree plan.
Yeah, no kidding.
Is that within all the parks in other cities you've dealt with, or is it more like residents, if they have an ash tree that needs to be addressed? I know I don't
So,
think the city will cover a residence, but
yeah, so it's been in parks and boulevard trees, so only things that the city, like, depending on the city, what they would own, it's not for private residents.
Yeah.
But yeah, the city of Blaine just did a huge replanting last year, in a lot of their parks, and a lot of cities kind of coming up the 35 or 65 corridor are starting to do that, so.
And you're talking, there's that big row that goes like down along the whole border of the park. Is it one of the trees in that row?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
we'd hate to have that spread to the other ones in there.
yeah,
Wipe
and
them all out. That'd be, because that shades that whole park in the summertime, in the afternoon and evening, that whole park is shaded because of those trees.
and a concern of mine especially is in our more natural spaces like Legacy Hills and River Meadows, where we have a lot of buckthorn and a lot of ash trees. As soon as those ash die off in the canopy, that buckthorn is gonna be really, really hard to get rid of, and we're not gonna have trees replacing it. So, just something to keep in mind. It's gonna turn into a buckthorn haven.
Does the DNR have grants for removal of buckthorn?
So, not specifically. There's like the community wildfire defense grants that I brought up last year that could be used for like fuels mitigation, and we would just write the grant application as we're reducing fuels and removing that shrub layer. But it's not specific to invasive species. Yeah, I'm not sure if Isanti County has anything either. I know some of the local soil and water conservation districts have funding programs, but there may also be opportunities to look into the Rum River watershed if they have funding. Different watershed organizations offer different things, so, yeah.
Especially with Legacy and the one south of town.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those would be
Because
my
that would be
concerns.
detrimental, I mean,
Right.
come through.
Did you get all that, Jordan?
I was taking notes.
Let us know what you come up with tomorrow, thanks.
Especially if we can get it granted out,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
so. Yeah, anybody else got anything? Yeah. I gotta find it again.
You're talking down in like the southwest corner?
I think he's right here.
Oh, okay, like right here. Yeah, it's not there.
Right in the
Okay.
middle, essentially.
And you guys would handle the cost of that and the labor, same deal?
So you're just essentially adding a ramp.
An apron.
Cause is your only other ADA access on that north side? Yeah. I wouldn't have a problem adding it into the motion that was already in there for him to bring it, well, I mean, he's gotta pass all the codes with you guys anyway, as far as that part of it.
Yeah, can it just be a general recommendation that we allow Run River BMX to improve or add sidewalks?
I'm not sure if it has to be a separate motion.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Can we just
We can-
amend what we had?
We can just do a separate motion just to kinda keep it so it's separate, so.
Okay.
If somebody wants to make a motion that Rum River can provide that, we recommend that they are able to add that ADA ramp off the parking lot as long as it meets code and you guys take care of the costs. Do I have a motion for that?
I make a motion with it.
Made by Erky,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. G. And all in favor say aye. Aye.
I,
All opposed, same sign. All right, motion carries. And that's the most action we've had in a long time. Anybody else have anything? Yeah. No, I mean, and that's, we've been focusing with Bluebird to essentially try and make that more ADA accessible and adding ADA swings along with some specialized equipment over there, so we've kind of been pushing that for the last couple of years, so it's a good thing. All right, anybody have anything else? All right, meeting's adjourned. It is 7:05 on the 28th.
We gotta have a motion for.
Make a motion, we adjourn?
I rushed it, too much accent.
Second it.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
I,
All right, motion carries. I'm ready to adjourn. 7:05. I was like, oh, I thought we need a motion to